Welcome again to our show. I'm Harry Greenberger, and I'm the host for this program and the president of the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association. A short time back, I was attending one of the monthly Gillespie breakfast events at the Unitarian Church, and the presentation that day was by Nat Turner, who's our guest here today. And I was so pleased with what Nat had to say that I, at that time, immediately invited him to be a guest on our show, which he accepted. So, Nat, welcome to our program.
It's good to be here.
And what Nat goes by is that he has the school at Blair Grocery. Now, that's a title that raises some questions. So why don't you first tell us, because your email address says NY2NO, which means you must have come down from the great Northeast. Tell us about what brought you here, and then we'll get into what you're doing.
Okay, great. First, thanks for having me. The name of the project refers to the history of the school, let me start over. I first started coming down here in 2006 with high school kids from New York City. We started doing reconstruction brigades after Katrina, and since that time we've brought down about 1,500 young people from the city and about $40,000. The students eventually formed their own organization, which is the New York to New Orleans Coalition. And that's where the NY2NO comes from.
That sort of volunteer help that came to New Orleans made a great difference in our recovering from the flood.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see it all across the city. There's so many folks who've come from all over the world, really. In August of 2008, I decided that I would stay and do broad-based education work with young people in New Orleans. And I was very fortunate to meet Craig Blair, whose family owned a grocery store for many, many years in the lower 9th Ward, which the actual name of it was B&R Grocery, which is for the corner of Benton and Roman. But the family is the Blair family, and people would refer to it as Miss Vivian's store or George Blair's store. And so in remembrance of the history of the building and the importance of the building, as what I'm told is the first black-owned business in the lower 9th Ward, maybe established in the 1940s, I thought it was important to include the name of the grocery store and the family name in the title of the project.
And that was located in a great devastation area.
Yeah, the building was probably under about 14, 15 feet of water. Now I'm using it as a school. I'm in the process of renovating the building, which is a pretty substantial task. It's an old building. It's a structurally very strong building. It's made with virgin rough-cut cypress, and so it withstands the water very well and withstands the termites. So we're renovating the building, using it in the afternoons, hopefully as a community center where the kids can come inside. Right now kids are playing basketball outside and playing in the garden. Now,
are those people who have returned and living in that area, or do they have to come from outside there?
Absolutely. The kids who are coming after school, many of them go to Martin Luther King Elementary, which is a great charter school in the neighborhood. But truth be told, there's not much for them to do in the immediate area right after school. And so it's a safe space for kids to come to and play.
Very good. Now, what else happens at that school?
Well, what I've started doing is tutoring at-risk youth. I'm working currently with 4 teenagers who, for one reason or another, haven't been able to make the public school system work out for them. And so I'm doing broad-based education, some GED work, reading. Like right now we're reading A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest Gaines, doing organic farming, oral history interviews with people in the neighborhood, a whole bunch of different things. I guess the creative arts, and so we have a huge mural project on the side of the building.
But when you say they, for one reason or another, weren't adapted to conventional schooling. Did they have learning disability, or was it personality conflicts, or what was it that you could do for them that they weren't getting elsewhere?
Right. Well, I think there's a bunch of different things at play there. Probably certainly one place to start is to talk about the history of public education in Louisiana. I think a lot of people think that the problems with the public schools in New Orleans were a result of Katrina. I think if you talk to folks who've been around for a while, they would say that the public school system down here hasn't been doing a great job for many years. In fact, if you talk to the folks at the School to Prison Reform Project, they will tell you that Louisiana public schools rank as the 49th or 50th worst school system in the country. Before Katrina in 2004, 2005, I know there's a study that said that only 20% of ninth graders in Louisiana were reading at a ninth grade level. In fact, most of them were reading on a second and third grade level.
I think that's generally accepted, that our school system was failing prior to the flood.
Yeah, and then you add on top of that the fact that families were displaced, that the social fabric of the families was really disintegrated. People's jobs, their living system, or where they lived, their family networks were disrupted. So while you used to be able to maybe have a grandmother or an aunt take care of kids after school, now you have to find a babysitter for them. Where you had a job, which maybe wasn't even a great job, but it was a stable job and your paychecks were on time, those things have fallen through. And so what I think you see is a broad-based disintegration of the social fabric in the city of New Orleans. And it's definitely impacting kids. I mean, at some level, if you drive through the 7th, 8th, 9th wards, you'll see kids on the street every single day. You'll see
during school hours?
Absolutely, yeah. You'll see countless kids on the street. I think the system itself is actually unable to deal with kids being truant, and I think the way we like to think about it is that, some kids fall through the cracks. I think when you look at some groups of kids in the city of New Orleans, what you're going to wonder is if there's any sidewalk at all.
And so, but you are particularly interested in the ones who have fallen through the cracks, is my understanding what you're doing there.
Yeah.
And then how do kids or teachers or parents or anyone else know about you and know what you're offering?
I think that. How do you mean? You mean?
Where do you expect your future students to come from?
Word of mouth. All the young people I work with right now are friends, cousins, relatives. I could probably work with more folks. I'm still working on renovating the building, getting it completely sound. But there are a whole bunch of young people out there who want more for themselves and more for their friends. And so when they hear about an opportunity to get some GED training, an opportunity to work on a cool mural project, an opportunity to read this book. The book that we're reading, the Ernest Gaines book, was recommended by one of the students. And she said, yeah, I read that book a while ago. Everybody should read it. And so she started reading it, and then one of her friends, wanted to read the book with us. And so then the kids started coming to school.
But now if you're preparing them, and you're talking about the GED,
yeah.
Are you the sole instructor? And you're able to handle a variety of subjects?
I have a couple of really wonderful volunteers who come in and do some specialized work with the students.
Okay, so you're not working alone there?
I'm providing the primary services, let's say that. But Dave Whalen is a great artist, and he's coming in and doing muraling projects and art with them. The graduate student at Tulane School of Public Health, who's working on a public health survey in the neighborhood with them. There's definitely a lot of folks in urban farming in the city of New Orleans who have stepped forward to help us work on our urban farm.
Well, you mentioned before your agricultural. Well, exactly what are you doing?
Well, what I'd really like to do is make the entire project sustainable through urban farming.